If you grew up watching TV in the 90s or early 2000s, chances are you dreamed of having a morpher. The formula was always the same. Teenagers saving the world in colorful spandex suits, sparks flying off their chests with every punch, and giant robots smashing through abandoned quarries. Power Rangers is that classic franchise that lives in the memory of anyone who's ever played hero in their backyard. But what if the big alien threat didn't just want to conquer our planet? What if it wanted to break TV ratings records? That's exactly what we're about to see. Here, the villains run an over-the-top reality show focused purely on combat. Sending rubber-suited monsters to Earth is just everyday entertainment for the universe. The story has a bit of everything. Family drama straight out of a soap opera, country music stars turning into warriors, and teenagers learning things the hard way. Amid the inevitable explosions, the show embraces the absurd and delivers something fun, packed with heart. So today on the channel, Power Rangers Ninja Steel, the heroes of our childhood facing their greatest threat yet, the relentless pursuit of engagement. In 2007, a mysterious artifact crashes into Dane Romero's backyard. He extracts the Ninja Nexus star from the object, but the extraterrestrial visit draws the attention of Galvanax, an alien warlord with fearsome generals and zero patience. Dane hands a fragment of Ninja Steel to his son to hide, morphs into the Red Ranger, and goes head-to-head with the invaders. Everything falls apart in a moment of distraction. His son, Brody, is taken hostage. With no other choice and desperate to protect the artifact, Dane destroys the star, triggering an explosion that clears the area. When the dust settles, Dane has vanished, and the Nexus Prism has absorbed the fragments to forge 6 new ninja power stars. Galvanax seizes the prism and kidnaps Brody, dragging the boy into deep space. Fast forward 10 years. Brody has grown up as a slave aboard the Warrior Dome, Galvanax's ship, which doubles as the arena for a bloodthirsty reality show broadcast across the universe. Galaxy Warriors. Fed up with the abuse, Brody plots an escape with his unlikely allies, the robot Redbot and the shape-shifting mechanic Mick. They snatch the prism from the villain's clutches and escape by plummeting through a trash chute into space. Meanwhile, back on Earth, we meet the staples of American high school life at Summer Cove High. Preston is an aspiring magician, Calvin is a gearhead, and Haley and Sarah are the brains of the operation. We also have Victor Vincent, the typical entitled jock who decides to commandeer Sarah's hoverboard, only to ruin Preston's magic show by face-planting straight into a dumpster. The space debris carrying Brody crashes nearby, and the monster Korvaca appears to reclaim Galvanax's prize. What the creature didn't count on was being run over by the newly arrived Preston and Sarah. In the heat of the chaos, the prism glows. The trio pulls the red, blue, and pink stars, morph into Power Rangers, and vaporize the alien. However, the prism takes flight before they can blink, disappearing into the sky with the 3 remaining stars. With the prism gone, Calvin and Haley are stranded in the middle of nowhere trying to fix their truck when they narrowly avoid being crushed by the debris from Brody's escape. Amidst the wreckage, Calvin kicks a grayish rock that immediately transforms into Mick. They decide to help the shape-shifting mechanic evade alien droids and rush to the school. To fly under the radar, Mick uses a survival tactic inspired by School of Rock. He dons a lab coat and poses as the new shop teacher. The disguise works perfectly, and in his very first class, he watches, without intervening, as the insufferable Victor tries to park his own car on a paint conveyor belt, causing a massive explosion.
Now you're 3 of a kind.
In parallel, Brody returns to the remnants of his past at his old family home, searching for his missing brother and the Ninja Steel. The only viable lead is his father's old karate trophy. As fate would have it, the trophy is currently glowing in the high school's main display case. Hungry for ratings and power, Galvanax sends the monster Ripper-Rat to Earth, a practical villain with chainsaws for hands. Calvin and Haley reach the trophy first but find themselves cornered by the monster's blades. Fortunately, the prism makes a triumphant return. The two pull the yellow and white stars, completing the team and shredding the villain alongside the rest of the squad. As every show needs a grand finale, the alien producers gigantify the monster. The prism reacts, transforming the trophy's metal into Zord stars. Minutes of giant robot combat later, the threat is turned to dust. The 5 teens claim an abandoned paint booth at the school as their secret base. The mood is victorious until Brody does the math. The prism held 6 stars, and there are only 5 of them. The gold power star didn't stay inside the rock, because up in space, the villainous advisor Madame Odious is secretly clutching it in the shadows. Galvanax's patience with his team of losers has reached its limit, so he dispatches Spinferno to Earth, a monster with deadly flames and an ego so massive he nearly makes the show's host faint from dizziness. At the new school base, Mick serves as the team's official blacksmith, forging the ninja steel to create element stars. Calvin tries to test the new weapon's water mode but misses the mark, getting blasted into a pile of junk. Amidst the pressure of a multiple-choice midterm, Brody's datacom starts chirping. Spinferno has scheduled an attack for exactly 8 o'clock a.m. After all, he has a prime-time slot on intergalactic TV to fill. Wanting to let his friends study in peace, Brody goes solo, blindsiding the monster with a water attack and making it back just in time for the test. This is where he makes his most questionable decision of the week. Brody uses the algorithms on his cosmic mini-computer to ace the exam. Victor tries to snitch on him, startling Brody and causing the alien tech to slide out of his backpack in the hallway. Acting like desperate clout chasers, Victor and his sidekick Monty grab the device, concluding that the fastest route to popularity is to defeat the threat the Rangers are hunting. Spinferno resurfaces. While Brody panics over his lost tracker, Victor picks a fight with the monster for engagement and is promptly blown away by a tornado.
Have a good trip! Bring me back something nice! There he is!
Mick has to give Brody a reality check. True leaders don't rely solely on screens. Taking a deep breath, Brody joins the team, and together they humiliate the alien in a race before finishing him off with fire attacks. The producers refuse to accept defeat and send a Skullcroc monster for revenge. The Rangers form the Ninja Steel Megazord, debut a brand new Master Mode, and end the battle for good. While Galvanax threatens to blast his own crew into the sun, Victor silently celebrates. His video of getting pummeled by the creature is a total embarrassment, but it just broke internet viewership records. Preston is trying to be the high school's version of Houdini, but his magic goes horribly wrong, and the insufferable Victor ends up stealing the spotlight and the applause. The crowd boos, and Preston's morale hits rock bottom. Brody tries to offer some encouragement, but the conversation is cut short when the impossible happens. Preston pulls 2 live rabbits out of a hat, real magic. Mick gives it to him straight. The Ninja Steel amplified his deepest desires, but real magic requires responsibility. On the streets, the alarm sounds. Galvanax himself descends to Earth. A tense confrontation ensues, as he is the one who destroyed Brody's father 10 years ago. The atmosphere is heavy, but the girls quickly break the villain's tough guy act by calling him a failure in front of his own cameras. Galvanax sends the monster Slogger into the fray. The beast sprays a lethargic gas on Sarah, Calvin, and Haley, leaving them in slow motion. Meanwhile, ignoring Mick's warning, Preston uses his magic to show off at school. The spell backfires, and he ends up detaching Monty's legs like a broken toy. On the battlefield, Slogger takes advantage of the Rangers' slowness and steals their power stars. Preston arrives to help and tries to use magic but fails. Brody drops a truth bomb. Power isn't for personal gain or mocking others. The realization hits home. With his intentions finally in the right place, Preston's magic works perfectly, immobilizing Slogger long enough for Brody to recover the stars. A red and blue steel crosscut sends the monster flying, breaking the slow-motion curse. Of course, the beast grows, and a classic Megazord brawl ensues. Preston's Dragon Zord saves Robo-Red from a fatal freefall, and a new Megazord formation finishes the monster.
This isn't good!
Back at school, Monty looks like a geometry block, but Preston fixes the mess, having learned his lesson. Every group has that one mechanic who saves the day, and here, it's Calvin. The guy can build a motorcycle from scratch using nothing but scrap metal. The ironic twist? He's terrified of driving. The trauma involves a childhood go-kart and a pond full of ducks, which is why Haley has been his personal chauffeur all this time. Up in space, the monster of the week is Tangleweb, a spider that shrinks down, invades the school, and traps Victor and Monty in a web cocoon. This is where things get ridiculous. The duo had eaten a lot of beans before the attack. Their gas begins to inflate the webbing and the two turn into a human hot air balloon, even able to float. Back to the real danger. Tangleweb attacks the Rangers using a massive vortex that swallows 4 of them into a dimensional refrigerator. Knowing the monster will return and that Calvin is their only hope, the Yellow Ranger rushes to the base. He looks at the prism and receives a clear vision of his bike. It's now or never. Calvin swallows his fear, tracks down the monster, and dives straight into the vortex. Once inside Tangleweb's prison, he slots a new ninja star into his bike, transforming the scrap metal into the Mega Morph cycle. He guns the engine, shatters the barrier from the inside, and frees the team. A combo of 5 energized arrows and claws finishes the spider on the ground. In the giant arena, the spider's webbing nearly disables the Megazord, but the prism delivers the Rumble Tusk Zord, a robotic elephant that uses its trunk to vacuum the webbing off the battlefield, freeing the team for the final blow. At the end of the day, Calvin overcomes his trauma and gets his driver's license, just in time to see Victor and Monty's web balloon pop on the school's flagpole.
Watch out for that flagpole.
The school is buzzing with preparations for the dance, but Redbot isn't in a party mood. The team's robot has been reading fairy tales, inspired by a prince, and tries to invite Haley to the dance. Thinking it's a joke, she refuses, reminding him he's just a machine. The robot leaves, completely heartbroken. Yes, underneath all that metal, there are real feelings. Washed with guilt, Haley takes her dog Cody and goes looking for Redbot in the forest. Along the way, she runs into Bagpipes, a monster who uses bagpipe music to hypnotize his victims. Redbot appears just in time and intercepts a lethal attack to save the ranger, as the hypnosis doesn't affect his circuits. After a turbulent escape and a crash landing, Haley offers a sincere apology, embracing her friend's essential humanity. The peace is short-lived. The rest of the team followed Cody and fell into an ambush set by Bagpipes and Ripcon, the space general hungry for revenge. The Bagpipes hypnotized the 4 rangers instantly, forcing them to hand over their stars. Luckily, Haley and Redbot burst onto the scene on the Mega Morph cycle and break the curse. The battlefield splits. On one side, the rangers trade fire and dodge Bagpipes' wind gusts on the beach. On the other, a much more personal fight, Brody and Ripcon in a direct sword duel. Brody proves his ninja training is flawless, sending the general back to space after seriously damaging his armor. Bagpipes becomes the main course. As a giant, he clogs the Megazord's systems with gunk, but he soon gets his elastic nose brutally ripped off by the Rumble Tusk Zord before being sliced in half.
This is a real bum no!
However, the real threat lurks behind the scenes. Madame Odious is holding a human prisoner in a secret chamber on the ship, using him as a conductor to siphon energy from the precious gold power star. This will eventually come at a high price. Meanwhile, at the dance, Victor tries to impress everyone with remote-controlled dancing shoes, but the circuits fry, and he runs off out of control. Further away in the peace of the secret base, Haley finally extends her hand and gives Redbot the dance he wanted. At Summer Cove High, Sarah decides that having a social life is overrated and joins 4 clubs at once. Mick doesn't understand how the time math works for her, but she just gives a classic "it's a secret" and bolts. Elsewhere, the villainous Madame Odious is in the middle of a sci-fi style interrogation, using a bizarre mental helmet on a prisoner to extract information before discarding him like trash. Meanwhile, Sarah is defying the laws of physics, humiliating Preston at chess, beating Brody in a race, and pitching tents at lightning speed. To top it off, she tests a new bow and arrow invention, breaking the school record and inadvertently causing bumbling Victor to attract a swarm of bees in his failed attempt to outdo her. During training, the mystery of Sarah's productivity is revealed. The monster Hacktrack invades, wanting to steal the Ranger's tech. During the scuffle, Sarah glitches like a lagging video game character, vanishes into thin air, and leaves a small gray sphere behind. The monster grabs the device and flees. Back at the base, the shocker. The real Sarah is alive and well at the computer. It turns out she invented a hollow projector to send clones to her clubs. A brilliant idea that just became a terrible weapon in the enemy's hands. Hacktrack uses the stolen tech to create 8 giant copies of Galvanax, terrorizing the city. Sarah panics and tries to use her clones to fix the mess, which only makes things worse with the added distractions. It's only when she sees Mick trying to play 4 instruments at once and failing miserably that the epiphany hits. Focus is essential. She deactivates the copies, creates a virus-laden device, and lets the monster take the bait, frying the cloning system. With the giant problem solved, the Rangers corner Hacktrack and, in the inevitable Megazord battle on the moon, because that's where these things happen, they settle the score. Sarah learns her lesson and quits the extra clubs, but the relief is short-lived. The Astrozord takes off on its own, blasts the side of the enemy ship, frees Odious' prisoner, and lands on Earth, revealing none other than the Gold Ranger. With the Gold Ranger active on Earth, Galvanax's routine has turned into a nightmare. This mystery man is destroying every monster before the team even gets a chance to face them. The villain wants the Ranger alive at any cost, and Ripcon swears he'll be the one to capture him. Unaware of the villain's corporate crisis, the Rangers are in line for a meet and greet with Levi Weston, the biggest country music star of the moment. The gang is decked out in cowboy gear, but Brody hates the stardom and the event's rigid rules. Until Ripcon and his goons storm the venue, Brody plays bodyguard and gets Levi out of the danger zone. In the chaos, the singer's assistant fumbles, and a gold ninja power star falls out of his briefcase. Ripcon sees it, assumes the assistant is the Ranger, and desperately chases the poor guy down. The scare leads Levi to hire Brody as his bodyguard during his stay in town. Over a burger on the street and a moment where they fix a van together, the untouchable idol reveals himself to be just a normal guy craving a sincere friendship. In true Hannah Montana fashion, he just wanted to live without the extreme perks of fame, but duty calls. The team finds where the assistant is being held and attempts a rescue, walking straight into a trap. Brody manages to free the hostage and screams for him to morph, but the guy obviously has no idea what's happening and runs away. That's when the dust kicks up. Levi appears with the Power Star, drops a Western-style one-liner, and morphs, taking on the mantle of the Gold Ranger. The whole team unites and drives Ripcon off, proceeding to shred the giant monster of the week with lightning-fast teamwork.
Final attack!
Back at the base, Levi explains his true story. He was completely isolated, composing his new album when the prism appeared before him. As soon as he touched the star, he was abducted and psychologically tortured by Madame Odious on her ship until he managed to escape in the stolen Zord. Now the mystery is over, and the team is finally complete. The team has barely had time to celebrate their new lineup before danger shakes the ground. Literally, a series of earthquakes hits the city on the eve of the first show of Levi's massive world tour. While the star meets the public and takes selfies with fans, the rest of the squad discovers the tremors aren't natural. They find Bashers, the new class of foot soldiers, and the monster Stone Dozer operating in a quarry. The villain's plan is pure malice. Create a focused, massive earthquake to collapse the concert arena on top of the Rangers once and for all. The problem is communicating this to Levi, who is already on stage and completely unreachable. Stone Dozer intensifies the tremors, cracking the ground toward the arena. Brody and Sarah arrive just in time to warn Levi, and a massive evacuation effort begins. Levi personally saves a fan's life moments before the arena roof completely caves in. The place is reduced to rubble, but being the heroes they are, the ninja team escapes through the dust unscathed and intercepts the monster at the quarry. The fight becomes Levi's stage. Using the new ninja clone star, the country singer creates his own army of copies, relentlessly slashing Stone Dozer. And to prove he hasn't lost his celebrity instinct, he pulls out his morpher and snaps a smiling selfie while the villain explodes dramatically in the background. In the inevitable growth of the defeated monster, Levi takes control of the new battle machines, fusing the Bull Rider Megazord to definitively pulverize Stone Dozer's remaining rocks. Surviving an arena collapse changes a person's priorities. At the end of the day, Levi summons entertainment reporters for a shocking announcement. The massive tour is postponed indefinitely. Fame can wait. Saving the world with his new friends, and maybe actually finishing high school, seems like a much more sensible focus for now. Preston takes the whole gang to the Ribbon Tree, a special place for hanging important mementos of family and friends. The mood is deeply moving until a construction crew shows up to tear it all down. And who is the site manager? Mr. Tien, Preston's own father. The guy radiates 80s movie corporate villain energy, willing to bulldoze nature to build a skyscraper and line his pockets. He brings the inseparable Victor and Monty along as reinforcements. While his father tells Preston to go to the car and let the adults work, the boy decides to use magic to turn a water hose against the pair of helpers. To save the tree, the Rangers start handing out flyers around town to organize a protest. On the other side of the story, the monster Trap Saw tries to capture Brody with traps that are frankly truly embarrassing. Ripcon, the real threat from the spaceship, takes over the fight and proves he is still far too strong, forcing Brody to retreat and better prepare. Returning to the tree, the protest looks like a failure, and Preston is about to throw in the towel until a surprise crowd shows up to support the cause. Mr. Tien loses his cool, grabs a chainsaw, and decides to cut the tree down himself. It's the classic tense father-son standoff, but at the last second, a ribbon falls from the leaves. It's the ribbon Preston's parents tied there when he was born. Nostalgia hits hard. The father embraces his son and cancels the project on the spot. The piece is short-lived as Kudabots attack. The Rangers take on Trapsaw in their giant robots and easily destroy him for good. Following the victory, Mr. Tien turns the area around the tree into a public park, and while Victor and Monty randomly fall into a hole in the ground, a mysterious figure approaches Brody in the woods and drops a bombshell. He is Aiden, Brody's long-lost brother. The two embrace. With the family reunion still fresh, Aiden tells the story of how he hid the coveted ninja steel in the school trophy before fleeing, and how he only returned to town after seeing the Power Rangers on TV. The guy is eager to join the team and gets Mick's permission to train at the base. Everything seems great until he hits the sparring mat. Aiden is absurdly aggressive against Levi, refuses to take corrections, and throws a tantrum, blaming Brody's friends before storming out. Back to the high school comic relief. Monty accidentally spills glue into Victor's chocolate mix. The result? Victor becomes a literal human statue of hardened cocoa, which is promptly taken away for a charity auction. Just typical high school problems.
These will be great for the charity auction.
Shortly after, the Rangers head out to confront an army in the city and find Aiden trying to play the lone hero. Out of nowhere, the monster Toxicity attacks. Brody jumps in front of a poisonous blast to save Levi and Haley, falling unconscious. Madame Odious appears with a clear ultimatum, the antidote to save Brody in exchange for the Power Stars by sunset. At the base, Aiden is spiraling, demanding they just hand the stars over to the enemy. But Haley and Levi don't think that's smart and devise a plan worthy of Willy Wonka. Taking advantage of a home EC class, they create perfect replicas of the stars made entirely of chocolate. They head into the forest alone, hand over the briefcase, and secure the antidote in time to save Brody. The villainess rushes to deliver her grand prize to Galvanax on the ship, only to watch her power stars melt into a puddle on the floor. The morphed Rangers show no mercy, combining their attacks to blow Toxicity sky high, complete with Levi taking a selfie with the explosion in the background. In the end, Victor's chocolate statue is freed by being devoured by hungry children. Everyone apologizes to Aiden for the friction, but the real twist happens far away. On the ship, Madame Odious secretly meets with her true partner in crime, Aiden. Aiden meets covertly with Ripcon at an abandoned factory. Their plan is simple. The monster will create a massive distraction in the city while the impostor searches for the Rangers' secret base. Ripcon agrees instantly, unaware that Madame Odious is the one pulling the strings from the shadows. While the city enjoys a brief moment of peace, the high school is buzzing with excitement for the talent show. Brody and Aiden plan to perform a song from their childhood. Victor and Monty, desperate for a last-minute act, decide to steal Preston's magic hat, but the spell backfires. The hat swallows them whole, trapping them inside with a giant, terrifying rabbit. When Ripcon launches his attack, the team is forced to split up. Mick and Levi finish the new fusion star, while Aiden uses the chaos to finally infiltrate the base. As Levi attempts to deliver the new gear to the battlefield, Ripcon knocks it away. The tension peaks as Aiden enters the base, paralyzes the assistants, and attempts to steal the ninja power stars. Levi senses the intrusion and rushes back to stop him. Inside the base, the confrontation escalates. Aiden draws a ray gun, but Levi reflects the blast back at him.
Aiden, please, stop.
The impact shreds the disguise, revealing the truth. Aiden is actually a dangerous cyborg, straight out of the Terminator. The rest of the team arrives armed and ready, destroying the robot, but not before it mysteriously transfers something into Levi's body. After discovering the betrayal, Galvanax allows Odious to pin the blame on Ripcon and sends the monster into a gigantification battle. The new fusion star forms the Ninja Fusion Zord, which crushes the monster without mercy. At the talent show, Preston pulls a traumatized Victor and Monty out of the hat. The climax of the night features Brody taking the stage to sing his father's song alone. As the melody fills the room, Levi is hit by a surge of electricity. The memories the cyborg had just returned to him. Madame Odious had kidnapped Levi, drained his childhood memories, and installed them into the impostor. Levi regains consciousness, realizing he is the true brother of Brody. He joins Brody on stage, finishing the song as the truth comes to light in a genuine, emotional embrace, finally solving the great mystery. The gang decides to participate in the Fun-athlon, a local community event. The Rangers find themselves split into different teams, but Calvin has other priorities. He spots a guy named Ace with an incredible car and decides to play mechanic for free after Ace mentions an oil leak. Ace radiates that Toretto swagger, but at the end of the day, he ditches Calvin, leaving him to push the car to school by himself. Meanwhile, the threat of the week is Shoespike, a monster disguised as an athlete. Finding Brody and Levi's team one member short, he offers to join and tricks them into touching his magic baton. The result? Brody and Levi become the most insufferable, over-competitive jerks in the universe. It's the equivalent of playing Monopoly with someone who thinks their life depends on winning. On the track, the two play dirty. Brody shoves Preston into a bush. Levi pushes another runner into the water, and they cross the finish line laughing in their own teammates' faces. The party ends when Shoespike reveals his true form and transforms the losers, including Preston, Sarah, and Haley, into literal trophies. To break the spell, the monster challenges the untouchable duo to a three-legged race with the ninja stars on the line. Elsewhere, Calvin fixes the vehicle only to discover Ace is a fraud who paid for the engine and just wanted free labor. Ace drives off, ignoring a technical warning, and his car falls apart over a storm drain seconds later. Karma never fails. Mick uses the moment to remind Calvin that real friends don't use you, making him realize he messed up by abandoning his team at the park. He rushes back, finds the talking trophies, and enters the high-stakes race, turning it into a four-legged mess. Despite the monsters cheating, Calvin takes the lead, sets the pace, and they win by a hair. The spell is broken, the Rangers morph for hand-to-hand combat, and the monster grows giant. The Ninja Fusion Zord completes the mission by slicing through the villain, and Calvin learns that some friendships are non-negotiable. Sarah invents a machine that transforms gross food, like liver and broccoli, into delicious cookies. It's Willy Wonka-level tech that could cure any child's vegetable trauma, while Victor and Monty try to overshadow her by stealing a cow and ending up in a jail cell. A real danger descends from space. Cosmo Royale introduces Princess Vieiraa from the Lion Galaxy, accompanied by her ruthless bodyguard Lord Drillion. The brute descends to Earth and hits the Rangers hard. During the skirmish, a stray attack hits Vieiraa, knocking her off a bleacher. Without hesitation, Sarah breaks her fall. Vieiraa is so bewildered by her enemy's kindness that she orders Drillion to retreat immediately, an act that leaves Galvanax fuming. Later, in civilian clothes, the princess investigates Sarah. She receives a free cookie and is amazed, but then catches a boy stealing the stock. Vieiraa leaps into action, transforming into an elastic fabric and pinning the boy to the pavement. Desperate, the boy pleads, saying he has nothing and just wants to feed his younger sister. Instead of punishment, Sarah gives him the box of cookies to sell so he can raise money honestly. The scene causes a short circuit in Vieirá's mind. She was forged to crush the weak, but Sarah shows her that sometimes people just need a hand. When the Pink Ranger recognizes her true identity, tensions rise and Drillion resurfaces, ready to annihilate them both. In a complete subversion of expectations, the princess steps in front of a fatal blast to shield the person she had sworn to kill. The team arrives to back them up, but the alien hunter is a juggernaut. He shatters the element stars and snaps Brody's sword in half. The situation is only saved when Vieiraa escapes to her lion ship and bombards Drillion from above. As punishment for her rebellion, Galvanax shoots her ship down, sending it plummeting to Earth in a ball of fire. The bodyguard retreats. Sarah gets an A for her charity work, and Vieiraa emerges alive from the smoking wreckage in the park. Galvanax needs to confirm Princess Vieiraa died in the crash, but she's tougher than she looks. With her anti-gravity crystal compromised, Vieiraa takes the form of a small metallic brooch, hitches a ride on Haley's backpack, and infiltrates the Rangers HQ. Her deal is simple. They rebuild her ship, and she helps them take down the monster. However, there's a major snag at the base. Mick, the hero's mentor, refuses to even look at her. The reason is heavy. Vieirá's royal family sold him into slavery 20 years ago, permanently cutting him off from his parents. It's a massive bombshell. Vieiraa doesn't make excuses excuses. She owns her family's dark history and asks for forgiveness, claiming the Ranger's example has inspired her to rule with kindness from now on. The Ninja Nexus Prism then provides a risky solution, creating a Zord from the salvaged scraps of the downed ship. Mick swallows his pride and agrees to forge a new star from the remaining ninja steel. At the same time, an upgraded Drillion, sporting a deadly bionic arm from Odious, heads to the city for a massive rematch. Without their primary Zord, the Rangers are overwhelmed by the monster's brute force. From the base, Mick tosses the newly forged star into the prism, but there's a surge of turbulence. The energy bounces off Vieiraa, stripping her battle armor and instantly transferring it to Brody's chest and arms. The team leader gains a glowing, heavy-duty upgrade that would make Tony Stark blush, Lion Fire Red. Defying the laws of physics, Brody pummels Drillion with pure aggression and flaming chains. Following the standard protocol of falling monsters, the brute goes giant. Mick successfully forges the final star in the prism, which locks perfectly into the wreckage, rising as the colossal Lion Fire Megazord. Brody melts the target into lava, ending Drillion for good.
Slash! Final attack! This is not a drill!
Ready to reform her home galaxy, Vieiraa seals the peace by gifting the Rangers her alien armor and giving Mick an invaluable treasure, a Starlink connecting him to his long-lost family via video. Tears follow. Back at school, Victor fails a weightlifting simulation and sinks into his usual public humiliation, cementing the status quo in Summer Cove. Haley and Calvin start their day dealing with a classic teen movie trope. He overslept, leaving her stranded and fuming over his lack of responsibility. The tension at school is palpable, and Principal Hastings fans the flames by suggesting Haley run for student body president. When Haley takes a jab at Calvin, implying a good president needs to be reliable, Calvin takes it personally and throws his hat into the ring. While the couple tries to outmaneuver each other, Victor and Monty hatch their typical sabotage plots to take down the competition. Meanwhile, a new threat emerges. Phone Ponzi. The monster is essentially a high-tech corporate espionage nightmare with the ability to mimic anyone's voice. He records the Rangers' voices, sows discord among the team by simulating fake conversations during battle, and escapes after a brutal sonic attack. Back at school, the campaign trail gets messy. Calvin tries to win votes with cupcakes, while Haley counters with massive slices of cake. Victor and Monty seize the moment, spiking Calvin's sweets with hot sauce, which triggers an epic food war in the cafeteria. Principal Hastings shuts it down, warning that one more slip-up will lead to disqualification. Sensing their rivalry, Phone Ponzi uses his voice-mimicking powers to lure Sarah, Brody, and Calvin into a perfect trap, successfully stealing their power stars. The plan only falters when he makes the mistake of imitating Brody betraying an ally, something the team knows Brody would never do. Realizing it's a ruse, the Rangers track the ambush to the plaza, overpower the monster, and foil his plan. Naturally, Levi doesn't miss the chance to snap a selfie with the fallen enemy. A giant-sized Phone Ponzi attempts to level the city with destructive sound frequencies. However, the monster's speakers are no match for Haley's Kodiak Zord, which counters with a sonic howl. With his defenses fried, the Megazords finish the job.
Oh no! I've been disconnected!
In the end, Calvin and Haley realize their relationship is more important than a title and withdraw from the race together. Victor wins by default, but his victory celebration is literally dampened when Monty accidentally triggers a device that soaks the new president in front of the entire school. Redbot has some downtime and decides to try his hand at blogging. He creates The Adventures of Redbot, a blog where he stretches the truth, casting himself as the team's legendary leader. In his stories, he claims to have saved the Rangers from a monster named Trapsaw, using an Iron Man-style arm cannon. Levi, the Gold Ranger, reads the post and quickly bursts his bubble, reminding him that the fight was actually easy and that making up hero stories will only lead to trouble. Redbot insists it's all in good fun. The fun goes too far when a publisher named Mr. Willoughby arrives at school, stunned by the blog's popularity and eager to turn it into a book. Seeing dollar signs, Victor and Monty appoint themselves as Redbot's managers and sign the contract. The blog's reach even extends to the far reaches of space. The villains are reading it too. A monster named Cat O'Clock comes up with a plan to use the book launch event as a trap, At the event, the Rangers notice the delivery truck is being driven by Kudabots. A skirmish breaks out in the parking lot. They take down the grunts, but the monster slips away. Inside, the books are distributed to the crowd. Redbot continues his fanfic persona, telling a fan named Mary how he saved her from a collapsing building. However, feeling deceived, Mary calls Redbot a fraud, saying that it was Levi who saved her, and storms off with her book. That's when the trap is sprung. Cataclock activates a remote spell, freezing everyone holding a book in time. Since Redbot is a machine, the magic doesn't affect him. Panic sets in when he realizes Mary is frozen right on a train track, with a locomotive barreling toward her. The Rangers are too far away to help, so it's Redbot's time to truly shine. He ignites his thrusters, flies in Superman style, and pushes her to safety a split second before impact. No fiction this time. With Mary safe, the Rangers corner Cataclock at a quarry. They use their element stars to jam his chest gears with leaves, neutralizing his freezing powers. They destroy his clock, he grows giant, and the team follows the usual protocol. The Ninja Steel Megazord combined with Rumbletusk ends the fight with a double axe final attack.
My whole plan has been an utter catastrophe!
The spell breaks, the school unfreezes, and the publisher decides to recall the books, since they almost wiped out the student body. Redbot, humbled but with his character restored, apologizes to the crowd for the lies and gives credit to the real Rangers. However, Mary returns to thank him for actually saving her life on the tracks, and even asks for his autograph. In the end, he proved he was a hero when it really mattered. The entire school is held hostage by Victor's massive ego, as he forces everyone to watch a highlight reel of his hard-earned victory in last year's tennis tournament. The footage goes out of its way to mock the loser. Haley, who was having the worst day of her life. Fed up with his arrogance, she challenges him to a rematch at high noon. Meanwhile, at the base, a glowing package arrives from Princess Vieiraa addressed to Preston. It contains the new Lionfire ninja gear, an ancient spellbook, and an impressive magic wand. Vieira's hologram leaves a stern warning. Preston must respect the craft and never skip pages in the manual. But, thinking he's already a master, Preston decides rules are meant to be broken. During Haley's warm-up, Preston gets bored with the basics and skips straight to spell number 8, invisibility. The spell backfires horribly, making Haley invisible to everyone. Unable to reverse the magic, they come up with a plan to hide her in a heavy dark tracksuit and a welding helmet to give her non-existent head some shape. The match is high stakes, but Victor cheats first, using a high-tech mechanical arm hidden under his shirt to serve like a machine gun. The ball hits with such force that it knocks Haley's helmet off, revealing to the stunned students that there's nothing underneath. Principal Hastings halts the game and kicks them both off the court, promising severe punishment if anyone cheats during the official match the next day. Before they can recover from the humiliation, the team is ambushed by Abracadanger, a megalomaniacal magical monster. He makes short work of Levi, literally blasting him across the country. He then turns Brody, Sarah, and Calvin into small plastic toys. Retreating to the base to protect the action figures and the stolen wand, the team meets with Mick. He delivers some hard truths. There are no shortcuts in magic. Preston swallows his pride and finally reads the manual from page 1, mastering the basics. His discipline pays off. He masters the higher level spells, restores his teammates to their original forms, and readies them for battle. Back in action, the Rangers corner Abracadanger, destroying him with a Lionfire blast, only for him to grow to colossal proportions. His defensive spell freezes the Megazords in place at a quarry. Just then, Levi makes an epic return from his continental exile riding his Zords. With a single strike, he breaks the paralysis, allowing the team to finish the mystical impostor for good.
Final attack!
You'll see me! You'll die!
Finally, during the official tennis rematch, Haley plays fair and dominates. Victor's hidden bionic strength is no match for her natural skill. In a definitive victory, Victor crashes into some water jugs, and Haley finally settles the score. Sarah and Preston are testing a new hoverboard, but the battery dies mid-air, sending them crashing into a bush. To save face and earn extra credit in shop class, Sarah decides to invent a new battery from scratch. Her mother tries to help, offering her own inventions, a hands-free snack gadget and later, a supercharger, but Sarah rejects them, wanting total independence. However, her mom, wanting her daughter to shine, brings the supercharger to school and plugs it into the hoverboard. It overloads the system, turning the board into a runaway rocket. Sarah is furious and snaps at her mother. Up in space, Cosmo Royale introduces Force Sphere, a monster who brags about his impenetrable force field and a suit that cost 10,000 space gold units. When Force Sphere arrives on Earth, The Ranger's attacks bounce right off his shield. They barely escape. Realizing they need more power, the group discovers they have one fragment of ninja steel left to forge new weapons. Mick and Redbot prepare a new star, but it fails the test. Sarah begins criticizing Redbot's work with such impatience that she suddenly realizes she sounds exactly like her mother. The realization hits hard. Sarah apologizes to Redbot and realizes her mother's supercharge idea was exactly what the new star needed. With a giant force sphere on the loose, the new Ninja Ultra Star is activated, forming the Ninja Ultra Zord. Force Sphere's shield is shredded and the monster is vaporized. Everything seems resolved, and Sarah reconciles with her mom. But back at school, Victor and Monty test their own invention, a massive magnet called the Mega Mag. They crank it up to maximum power and accidentally attract all the Ninja Power Stars.
Oh no.
Galvanax and Madame Odious seize the opportunity, capturing the stars and kidnapping Victor and Monty, setting the stage for a massive finale. The stage of Galaxy Warriors is set for the season finale. Galvanax has almost everything he needs, except the final power stars. Using the stolen Mega Mag, he rips the stars right off the chests of Preston, Sarah, Calvin, Haley, and Levi, forcing them to demorph before they are taken prisoner. Brody saves the day at the last second, destroying the magnet and escaping. Aboard the ship, Madame Odious forces Victor and Monty to build an even stronger magnet, coldly admitting the machine will destroy both the Rangers and Galvanax himself. Terrified, the duo disguises themselves as Kudabots in hopes of escaping. On Earth, Galvanax corners Brody at a cliffside, demanding the last power star in exchange for his friends' lives. With no other choice, Brody mimics his father's sacrifice from 10 years ago. He uses his family sword to shatter his own power star into 3 pieces. The resulting explosion knocks everyone back. Then, the impossible happens. The Ninja Nexus Prism absorbs the fragments and spits out 3 intact red power stars. Brody reappears morphed, Mick suddenly becomes a ranger, and the 3rd star goes to none other than Dane Romero, Brody's father, who had been hidden and protected inside the prism for a decade. With the family reunited, the Rangers attack. Desperate, Galvanax melts down his remaining ninja steel, drinks it like a radioactive protein shake, and demands to be made giant. Aboard the ship, Victor and Monty's cover is blown when Monty can't hold in his gas during the live broadcast. Cosmo Royale realizes scrap metal robots don't have digestive tracts. However, the toxic cloud provides enough distraction for the pair to teleport to Earth. They escape just in time. Odious betrays Galvanax and activates the giant magnet. The force not only strips Galvanax of his power but pulls a massive asteroid straight into the ship, hurling it into the deep reaches of space. On Earth, the Rangers find an opening and channel the prism's energy into a final strike, destroying Galvanax. With the villain defeated, the prism loses its glow and the power stars turn to dust. Mick, like he's just finished a long shift, calls a galaxy Uber and returns to his home planet. But deep in space among the wreckage of the ship, Madame Odious crawls out of the debris. Halloween fever hits the school. Calvin arrives with an old board game called Grave Robber. Levi judges the worn-out cover and passes on playing, but the rest of the team dives in. Big mistake. It turns out the game was hacked by Cosmo Royale, turning it into a TV special where the Rangers are sucked into a pocket dimension. They must fight for their lives before the sand in an hourglass runs out. It's a Jumanji vibe, but with recycled monsters and lethal stakes. The challenge is a boss rush against past enemies. Trapsaw is quickly taken out by Brody. Then, Sarah uses a frequency jammer to short-circuit the cyborg hack track. When the 3rd monster, Slowgra, slows the team down with paralyzing mist, Cosmo Royale cheats by playing a misfortune card. The rules change, forcing the battle into a solo match. Calvin is thrown onto a road against Spinferno, trapped in the cab of a runaway truck, dangling over a cliff. He manages to save a civilian driver, but loses the fight and is teleported to a worse area where Cosmo releases a giant skull gator and takes control of the Rangers' own Zord. The Zord battle is brutal and the Rangers are being hammered. Back in the real world, Mick, dressed as a motivational pumpkin, finds Levi playing guitar and gives him a reality check. Levi realizes his friends are in trouble, grabs the game's hourglass, and dives into the virtual dimension. When Cosmo Royale screams that Levi is cheating by invading the game, Levi uses a brilliant technicality. Since he never agreed to play, the board game's rules don't apply to him. Free from the magical restrictions, the Gold Ranger retakes control of the Zords, forms the Bull Rider Megazord, and turns the monster to ash. As Cosmo threatens that their time has run out, Levi smiles and reveals he has the real hourglass in his hand. He shatters the glass, breaking the spell and sending the team safely back to school. After a group hug, Brody suggests retiring the dice and cards for good, and the team heads out for some well-earned trick-or-treating. It's Christmas time, and the Rangers are at school celebrating while Sarah plays a telepathic Mistress Claus. She nails everyone's gifts, from a tambourine for Levi to a wizard hat for Preston, all because she's been snooping on their wishes and taking notes in a diary. However, the mood shifts when the group realizes that in the end, no one bothered to buy her anything at all. But before guilt can sink in, Cleopatra, Catocloc's cousin, invades the school seeking revenge. Since the team is without their power stars, the situation becomes dire. The monster fires a freezing ray that hits the group dead on. Sarah is the only one to escape, performing a tactical dive, snatching the time controller from the villain's claws and bolting. In the courtyard, she literally runs into Santa Claus's sleigh, which was only there for the bureaucracy of putting Victor and Monty on the naughty list. Desperate and fumbling with the remote, she accidentally activates a time portal, dragging the big guy inside with her. Inside the time tunnel, Sarah realizes she needs the original power stars to fight back. Her solution? A quick road trip through the school's past to retrieve each Ranger's star while they were alone. She convinces her past self with documentary proof, easily gains Levi's trust, and, growing impatient with her own time safety restrictions, grabs Calvin and Haley's stars in one fell swoop. Preston's star is stolen stealthily in the middle of a food fight. The real challenge is Brody, whom she interrupts during one of his most dangerous heroic moments. Sarah uses the shared moral weight they carry to convince him. Back in the present, the group is thawed out. Cleopatra expects to find helpless ice statues but is met by a fully morphed squad. The final battle defies all supply logic. Brody activates an armor Sarah hadn't even retrieved, and in a classic villainous blunder, Cleopatra presses the wrong button on her artifact, triggering a growth spell instead of a freezing one. After a Godzilla-style mecha versus monster brawl, bolstered by the mysterious appearance of the Robo-Red Zord, the team dispatches Cleopatra for good.
Show's over. Ninjas win.
Back at the base, after frying the remote on the stove to stabilize the timeline, Sarah tries to play off her hurt feelings by saying gifts don't matter. That's when the group reveals their big move. Her gift was convincing Santa to give her a ride in the sleigh. The icing on the cake? She gets to drive the reindeer. Peace on Earth usually lasts shorter than summer vacation. Just as the Rangers thought they had retired for good after Galvanax's defeat, the Warrior Dome ship drifts through deep space only to be intercepted by Sledge and his crew, who are lost on the other side of a wormhole. The bounty hunter strikes a deal with Madame Odious, who, surprise, survived, to repair the ship in exchange for the Ninja Super Steel asteroid embedded in the hull. Odious, true to form, is a master of betrayal. She bribes the prisoner Badana to steal the ore right under the visitors' noses. Sledge blasts off like a fool, leaving the villainess in command, immediately restarting the bloodthirsty programming of Galaxy Warriors. In Summer Cove, the first day of school marks the team's return to civilian life. Victor and Monty spent the monster-free hiatus pulling off a genius scam, selling a miracle monster repellent spray to the entire city. They made so much money they donated $1 million to the school, erected an absurdly self-indulgent gold statue of Victor at the entrance, and signed their own withdrawal papers. The comic relief is cut short when the radar at the base pings, and Mick teleports into HQ with a confiscated intergalactic transmitter. The show is back on the air, and the ultimate prize is now the shattered Ninja Nexus Prism. Realizing Odious will exploit the stolen Super Steel, Brody plays street chess. They'll use the prism as bait to take her down on Earth. The villainess descends upon the public park alongside the newly promoted Badana and the monster Smellifant. The civilians try using the repellent, which only squirts out an embarrassing fart gas. As Smellifant sweeps the foul essence with his trunk, the panic clears the area. The prism is ripped from inside Victor's tacky statue.
Interesting. The prism. It's dead. Then the Rangers don't have their powers. Perfect.
After a classic skirmish that leaves the Ranger team trapped in a magic cage, Odious uses dark sorcery and pure shards of the asteroid to forge dark stars powered by the restored prism. The light's response is merciless. Preston uses his innate magic to warp the prison bars. Without hesitation, they reclaim the Super Steel and toss the case to Mick while launching into hand-to-hand combat. Brody finds an opening to shove Madame Odious, breaking her incantation. Freed from the dark tether, the prism devours the raw ore and bestows a renewed arsenal, new morphers, upgraded powers, and extra stars. Reinvigorated, the hunt reverses, shattering Odious' morale, and then Smelliphant himself with a Megazord impact. The day ends with a reality check at school. Victor and Monty's miracle check bounced, and fleeing from an angry mob of scammed citizens, the two have no choice but to crawl back to Principal Hastings begging for forgiveness. The latest attraction on Galaxy Warriors is Deceptron, an armored alien whose launcher is powered by the dirty energy of lies. In a stroke of perversely timed cosmic irony, Calvin chooses to lie through his teeth, claiming he remembered his anniversary with Haley. The punishment for this bluff is swift. The monster ambushes them, pins Haley's ninja star with a ray, and sticks close to the Yellow Ranger to feed off the romantic tragedy. With Haley unable to morph and Mick unable to act as a cosmic mechanic because Deceptron's magic spike is jamming the gear, Calvin's morale collapses. Preston tries to restore order by pointing toward the absolute truth, but Calvin tries to save their dinner by scrambling for a last-minute gift. In a comedic shopping mall slip-up, the Romero brothers run into them, and the pressure to explain himself forces Calvin and Preston to rattle off a string of lies to throw them off. This secondary ammo immediately overcharges the villain's weapon. They are forced to morph to contain the urban fury, but magic locks paralyze Levi and Preston's power coins. They are forced to retreat after Sarah provides cover fire from a distance. Back at the base, Levi pieces the puzzle together by deciphering the enemy's manual and puts the ball in Calvin's court. The only way out is the truth. When Calvin confesses the fiasco preceding the dinner, Haley reassures him that a simple lapse in memory would never break them. But the deception was the worst path to take. As they forgive each other, the magical chains dissolve from their morphers.
Power stars. Oh, telling the truth fixed the power stars.
Proving that team dynamics must remain rooted in honesty to retain the power of the ninja steel. Unfortunately, while they are mending fences, chaos erupts across town. Victor bought designer sunglasses that left him nearly blind, and Monty lied incessantly while his friend crashed through public planters, inadvertently recharging Deceptron's filth batteries. The Rangers arrive just seconds after Victor takes a tumble into the central fountain. The battle escalates, and the tide turns against the enemy. When the monster targets Brody, Calvin creates a tidal wave, washing away the villain's advantage while Sarah melts his weapon. Overcharged by the global broadcast of Alien Star production, Deceptron reaches his limit. Mick launches remodeled Zords, filling the gap of the missing stars with heavy connectors and unlocking the brand new Ninja Super Steel mode within the Ultra Zord. With this supreme battery linked to the orbital grid, they open fire on Deceptron, annihilating every trace of fallacious artillery. The day ends with a saved dinner date at the school's hangout, complete with perfectly hand-drawn photo albums. Madame Odious isn't playing around and recruits Spyclops for a very specific plan: stealing the power stars through music. In town, a street performer named Jess catches Victor and Monty's attention. The duo embarrasses themselves trying to impress her with ridiculous outfits. But when Levi Weston enters the scene, their spotlight vanishes. Jess is singing one of his own songs. The two hit it off immediately, and by that, I mean Levi becomes so fascinated by the girl that he actually ditches his team in the middle of a fight against Kudabots just to hear her new composition. He meets her, and Jess quickly convinces him to ditch his classic cowboy jacket for a more modern look, which should have been a massive red flag. She hands him her sheet music, and as soon as Levi starts singing the lyrics with a strange cadence, the trap is sprung. The song is a mind control spell that instantly turns him into an evil henchman under Odious's command. At the base, Preston flips through his spell book and realizes the gravity of the situation. It's a symmetrical spell, meaning they have to get Levi to sing the lyrics backward to break the enchantment. Fighting alongside Spyclops, the new Levi gives his friends a brutal beating. The Yellow Ranger arrives with the torn pieces of the original sheet music. They manage to piece it back together and get ready for round 2. The tension is high, but Preston manages to recite the countermeasure, breaking the brainwashing. Levi snaps out of it only to realize the girl of his dreams was just a monster in disguise. That hurts more than a punch to the face. Spyclops goes giant, and the team forms the Ninja Fusion Zord to turn the monster into stardust. The episode closes with Levi apologizing for trying to change who he is to please someone else, right before Victor and Monty clear the base with the toxic stench of their cowboy perfume. While Levi tries to regain his dignity, things in Summer Cove take a different turn. Haley's father has entered the city's big fishing competition, focused on catching the legendary bruiser fish. To do it, he's built a massive drone with a net cannon. His intentions are good, but on the first attempt, the drone short-circuits and ends up fishing itself out of the water. Sarah's mom shows up to offer mechanical help, and the inevitable happens. Sparks fly, and the two start flirting in front of everyone. Sarah and Haley hate every second of it. Up in space, the plans are a bit more lethal. The monster Doomwave has installed a tsunami-generating machine on the ocean floor. All Madame Odious has to do is press a button, and the whole city becomes an aquarium. However, the button does nothing. Why? Haley's dad's clumsy drone accidentally collided with and smashed the villain's equipment. Totally oblivious to the potential end of the world, Sarah and Haley are busy trying to sabotage the new couple. They rig it so the dad offers the mom grasshoppers, and the mom spins the dad until he's nauseous. The plan works too well. The two have a huge fight, end their partnership, and toss the broken drone in the trash. The weight of their mistake hits only when the Rangers inspect the fragments from the drone and realize it's alien tide control technology. They dispatch a team of basher bots, but Doomwave goes deep underwater to repair his tsunami charger. Without the mother's coding or the father's engineering, the drone is useless. Knowing everyone is in mortal danger, the two girls swallow their pride, put on their suits, and go ask their parents for help. The reality check puts the parents into gear. With the drone operational and back in the water, the girls fish the thread out seconds before the wave forms and blow up the generator. Madame Odious refuses to lose and makes Doomwave colossal. From the prism, a new star emerges, fuses with the drone, and creates the formidable subsurfer Zord. Levi hops on to catch the wave, the gear links with the Ninja Steel Megazord, and they obliterate Doomwave. Everything ends with a genuine apology from the girls, while out of nowhere, Monty walks by dressed as a fish. Peace is short-lived because a new craze has taken over the school, Game Goblin. It's an incredibly addictive handheld video game that Preston bought and distributed to the class. The fever is so high that Victor creates a classroom distraction just to play behind the teacher's back, and Preston hasn't even touched his homework. But it's not just a silly game, it's actually an alien Trojan horse designed to slowly drain the player's energy and channel it to a real-world game goblin, all to kill the Rangers. Unaware, the team is glued to their screens, ignoring their training at the base. When the villain's battery hits its peak, he sucks Haley, Sarah, Brody, and Calvin into the virtual world. The battle inside the game is brutal. The monster nearly exhausts his energy facing the group, but is instantly recharged by the irresponsible students at school who keep mashing buttons. Fully powered, he uses a control beam on Brody, forcing the leader to fire on his own friends. The effect eventually wears off, but as the villain catches his breath, he hits Haley with the beam, and she doesn't hold back. She blasts Brody with everything she's got. At a total disadvantage, the team realizes the only way out is to retreat and hide. Brody manages to send a comms message to Levi. The realization hits Levi. The teenagers are the fuel. He goes after Preston, who refuses to accept that he gift-wrapped the end of the world for his friends. Preston dives headfirst into the game and challenges the goblin to hand-to-hand combat. Unfortunately, the spell hits him too, and he joins the attempt to take down his allies. It's up to the most brilliant and only available plan outside the screen. Mick tells Levi to dress up as a goblin at school and jump out at the students, scaring them until they drop their consoles. The analog horror works. The villain's stamina bar hits 0, freeing the team's minds. Preston strikes the final blow, forcing the classic Godzilla-sized transformation. The Rangers don't miss their chance. They stack the Ninja Steel Megazord formations, call the Astro Zord, hit it with the Subsurfer, and delete the monster's code for good.
Show's over. Ninjas win.
In the end, the lesson on priorities is learned, though Odious's ship is already scheduling the relentless galactic ninjas to take over the next corporate-style attack. And Cosmo Royale? Poor Cosmo. His obsession with the game was so high that the consequences caught up to him, transforming his face into a literal goblin for the foreseeable future. Calvin is in a bad way. He's suspicious of his own shadow. He's convinced that Haley and Preston are having a secret romance. Of course, being a typical high school drama, it's all a misunderstanding. The two are just rehearsing romance Romeo and Juliet for the school play, but who's going to tell Calvin? His jealousy peaks when he catches them from the bushes and sees his girlfriend kiss his friend on the cheek. Before this turns into an episode of Gossip Girl, the real threat appears. Wolverine, one of the mysterious galactic ninjas. He moves fast and steals the memories of Haley, Preston, and Brody in the blink of an eye. Calvin and Levi try to hold the line. Calvin attacks using his ninja powers, but fails miserably. It's Sarah who ends up throwing herself in front of him to save her friend, sacrificing her own memories in the process. Back at the base, Mick gives a realistic sermon about investigating before jumping to conclusions. With a clear head, Calvin and Levi set an ambush. They use old ninja tricks to corner Wolverine, recover the memory orbs, and literally shove them back into the team to bring everyone back. With the team at 100%, they show no mercy. Brody activates the Lionfire armor and, alongside Calvin, destroys Wolverine's first life. The monster grows, and the routine is set. The Rangers pull out the Ultra Zord and finish the job with a clean shot, but in the middle of the dust, a detail goes unnoticed by the heroes. Madame Odious silently retrieves the fallen ninja's medallion. At school, the truth finally comes out. Calvin watches the play, realizes his gaffe, and apologizes. Oh, and Victor and Monty, who tried to sabotage the play by locking themselves in a shipping crate, they ended up accidentally being shipped to South Africa. It happens. The dust from the previous fights has barely settled, and the focus shifts. Sarah is obsessed with breaking the world speed record on a hoverboard. Everything is going great on the track until the insufferable Victor comes out of the bushes with some weird gear and beats her record by 10 seconds. It's a humiliation Sarah can't swallow. Desperate to get the trophy back, she tests a new suit and accelerates so fast she loses control, flying off the board and colliding in midair with none other than Speedwing, the second galactic ninja. The Rangers arrive to fight, but the monster is impossible to track.
Just try to keep up.
Whoa, that star makes him so...
The guy has flash-level speed and vanishes before Preston's forest plan can work. In his escape, Speedwing drops his speed star. Sarah takes the alien tech and, ignoring Mick's stern warnings about crossing lines with monster technology, installs it on her board. It works. She breaks the record, but Speedwing appears immediately after to reclaim his gear, exposing her cheating for everyone to see. During the chaos, the alien star accidentally ends up on Brody's helmet, forcing the leader to run non-stop like a madman. Guilt hits Sarah hard. She realizes that taking shortcuts comes with a price and devises a plan to clean up her own mess. She guides Brody onto a collision course with the monster. The impact returns the star to Speedwing. With the enemy disoriented, the Rangers perform their classic running team call. Brody engages the Lionfire and the group dispatches the villain's first form. The giant clash forces the combination of the Lionfire Megazord and the Fusion Zord to secure the win. In the shadows, Madame Odious adds another ninja medallion to her collection. Back at school, Sarah returns the trophy, admitting she cheated. To the surprise of 0 people, it's revealed that Victor cheated too. They offer her a do-over, but Sarah refuses. Being with her friends was more important. The peace doesn't even last until the school's annual camping trip. Principal Hastings brings her grandmother's antique compass to guide the journey, but the artifact vanishes almost instantly and ends up inside Brody's backpack. The result? The protagonist denies any guilt but is sent straight to detention. Meanwhile, the third galactic ninja, Rigor, descends to Earth, attacking with chaotic moves decided by a roll of the dice. Brody, who has no time for a detention sentence for a frame-up, escapes through the school roof to join his friends. In the middle of the forest, the side plot resolves everything. Victor and Monty are hunting the legendary Summer Cove rhino and mistake Rigor for the animal. They try to capture the monster but are launched into the air, landing perfectly on the principal's tent.
Unbelievable! Victor, Monty, what are you doing?
Trying to dodge trouble, they show her a video they recorded. The footage inadvertently proves the compass was tossed into Brody's bag by Victor's own net. The hero's name is cleared, and he's praised for sticking to the truth. Back on the battlefield, Brody arrives in full force. Focused, he uses clone shurikens, multiplies his strength in the Lionfire, and takes down Rigor's first life. As per the rules, the enemy grows, and the powerful Ultrazord is summoned to purge him from the Earth, and this is where the game turns violently against the Rangers. Taking advantage of the vacuum, Madame Odious steals Rigor's medallion and does the same by force to the final warrior of the faction, Venema. With all 4 medallions gathered, the villainess inserts them into the Foxbots, creating the monstrous Foxatron Zord. The ensuing combat is a massacre. The Ultrazord formations crumble at the first strike. None of the heroes' attacks manage to even scratch the new robot's armor. The Rangers are thrown out of their cockpits in humiliating fashion, their Zord stars are incinerated, and their armor fails. Brody tries one last effort in the lion fire but takes a massive beating and is ejected. The team watches the destruction, completely powerless. The villainess only stops because the mechanical suit runs out of battery and must retreat to recharge. The Rangers survive, but their defenses have been reduced to ashes. While Mick racks his brain trying to repair the team's Zord stars, Preston completely ignores the new girl, Sandy, when she asks for help with a project. It's a classic blunder that gives Victor an opening to impress her with his usual tactic, showing off his trophies. Back at the villain's base, the heat is on. Madame Odious finishes recharging her Foxatron medallions. When Wolverine and Venema demand theirs back, she gives them an ultimatum. They have exactly 2 hours to annihilate the Rangers. Unable to solve the star issue with pure science, the Rangers receive a bizarre visit. 3 hooded figures looking like lost Dementors appear out of nowhere. They promise to help with the new Zords, but only if the team proves they are worthy. A textbook RPG side quest handed to them on a silver platter. The alarm sounds, and the team hits the streets to deal with Odious's 2 henchmen. After a brief skirmish, the monsters retreat. Mick takes the opportunity to send everyone to the school lab for supplies, and the trip turns into a good deed marathon. Calvin and Haley stop to fish a wedding ring out of a storm drain, while Preston finds a desperate Sandy and, realizing his earlier mistake, finally sits down to help her. As a bonus, the lab equipment is used to unstick Victor and Monty's heads after they foolishly mixed chemicals they didn't understand. The kindness pays off. The hooded figures reappear, declare the Rangers worthy, and the Ninja Prism finally releases the new stars. Just in time too. Wolverine has grown giant and is laying waste to the city. The team summons their new Zords, forms the Ninja Blaze Megazord, and joins the fray. But Madame Odious doesn't play around. She boards her newly charged Foxatron and, in a ruthless corporate villain move, destroys her own henchmen to take over the fight herself. The battle is intense, ending with the heroes being launched from a cannon in the Megazord's chest to pierce and destroy the Foxatron.
Show's over. Ninjas win.
Odious's mask cracks from the impact. Watching the victory from a rooftop, the hooded figures look on. The tallest one reveals a Time Force morpher, making it clear these heroes might be very useful in the future. That mysterious morpher was no coincidence. The threat escalates quickly, reaching the home of the legendary Tommy Oliver, who was just trying to take his son to school when a bizarre portal opens right in his yard. Simultaneously, the 3 hooded figures return to the base, but this time, they shed their disguises. Brody immediately recognizes Wes Collins from Time Force. With him are Gemma, from a world ravaged by a computer virus, and Coda, from a dimension where dinosaurs never went extinct. Their warning is grim. Crossing the multiverses nearly destroyed the Morphin Grid, an act of pure desperation. And desperation has arrived. Rangers are vanishing from multiple realities, and Tommy has gone silent. The team tracks the coordinates to the legendary Ranger's house, only to realize they've walked into a trap. The Tommy on the porch is a robot. The true architect behind this is Lord Draven, Emperor of the Antiverse, who has partnered with Madame Odious to manufacture an unstoppable army of robo-clones of legends like Kat, Trent, and Gia. Furthermore, Draven possesses arrows capable of piercing and shattering the fabric between universes. The squad travels to the Antiverse, but is quickly surrounded by troops ready to take down intruders. Salvation comes in the form of an invisible force knocking out the guards. It's the real Tommy, who activated his Dino Thunder stealth powers to escape. The invasion turns into the pure chaos every crossover promises. While the rookies hold off Draven and try to delay the arrow launches, the veterans rush to free the prisoners. The definitive moment comes when Tommy faces his own robotic copy. Swiping a brand new Master Morpher, he cycles through his Zeo, White Ranger, and Green Ranger forms, obliterating the robot once and for all. Even so, Draven fires the second arrow, bathing the multiverse sky in red. Relief only comes when the true legendary Ranger army steps onto the battlefield, wiping the clone troops off the map. In a desperate retreat, Odious turns Draven Giant. Tommy doesn't miss a beat. He summons the Falcon Zord, catches the lethal arrow mid-air, and the entire team fires together using Draven's own artifact to annihilate him, shattering his threat and healing the universes instantly. After saving the multiverse, the team returns to the most terrifying threat level there is, surviving Valentine's Day unscathed. Madame Odious has officially lost her patience. She pins Vieiraa against a wall and demands the villain use her bizarre romantic powers on Earth's teenagers, or die. At school, the lovey-dovey atmosphere spares no one, and Victor has the brilliant idea of literally firing a toy arrow at Sandy, thinking it will convince her to go out with him. She makes it clear she'd rather go to the dance alone. Preston overhears the rejection from hiding, losing whatever courage he had to ask her out. Things go south at the park. While Calvin deals with the thankless task of picking up dog waste, Vieiraa flies overhead firing her love arrows. She misses her target and hits Sandy's backpack in the crossfire. Preston quickly pulls Sandy out of the danger zone, but the others aren't so lucky. The henchwoman hits Brody dead on, and the second-hand embarrassment is immediate. He falls head over heels for her and tries to pet the monster's wings. Calvin and Levi are hit shortly after, succumbing to the same delusion, with almost the entire team acting like fools and making gifts for a murderous alien. Preston receives a text from Sandy and goes to meet her. She asks him to the dance, but he refuses. Taking hero ethics to the extreme, he believes her feelings are fake, manufactured by the arrow's magic. It's a rare miracle of teenage decency, but Sandy runs off heartbroken after being rejected by the guy she actually liked. The misunderstanding is cleared up when Haley examines Sandy's bag and sees the arrow only went through a notebook. No magic involved, just bad luck. On the battlefield, the love-struck Rangers try to desert the base, forcing the sober ones to don tactical armor to hunt down the villain before disaster strikes. The confrontation peaks when Preston is shot at point-blank range and hugs Vieiraa. However, protected by the newly forged armor, the arrow fails to penetrate. He rips it out, breaking the trance for everyone affected. Magic neutralized. Without her romantic advantage, the monster is blasted by Preston's special attack.
Goodbye, Vieiraa.
This really stings!
She returns giant-sized, but the Ninja Blaze Megazord seals the deal with a lethal shot. Once the dust settles, Preston uses some common sense. He finds Sandy, clears up the confusion, and ensures they'll be going to the dance together for real. Levi dealing with fame is nothing new, but now he's dodging everything from fast food endorsement deals to obsessed fans. The biggest of them is Chaz, who shows up to claim a hangout session promised by an automated message from the hero's manager. Their interaction is cut short when a monster named Dreadwolf attacks the city. During the chaos, Dreadwolf launches his poisoned claws at the hero, but the team's mentor, Mick, takes the hit instead. The result? He begins transforming into a bizarre cross between a troll and a Bigfoot. The team manages to extract the claw in time to reverse the mutation, but the real danger is still at large. Chaz, devastated by being brushed off, decides to do what any ignored mega fan would. He dresses in the exact same clothes as his idol. The disguise works a little too well. Dreadwolf spots the kid on a rooftop, mistakes the fan for the ranger, and fires his claws. Chaz trips, and the first shot hits none other than Victor, right in the backside.
Oh, Victor! I think a bee stung me.
Oh, let's get you out of here. We've got to get to your big shoot.
The second shot, however, lodges in the boy, who instantly transforms into a humanoid werewolf. The team arrives for the rescue. While the others deal with the main monster, Levi has to contain his own furry doppelganger. Remembering that music soothes the fan, he sings until Chaz falls asleep and pulls out the poison claw. With the boy safe, the Ninja Prism signals it's time to level up. Using the Lionfire armor, Levi destroys Dreadwolf, and the team finishes off the giant version of the monster with the Ultrazord. In the end, Levi apologizes to Chaz, and the two finally become real friends. As for Victor, Monty has to pull the claw out of his rear end in the middle of school, which automatically kills any chance he had of keeping his modeling contract. As the dust settles on Earth, the villain's side gets some new blood. Madame Odious welcomes General Tynamon and his heavy hitter, the warrior Brax. A bizarre chemistry flickers among the villains, with Badana hitting on the new recruit and Tynamon killing the mood by threatening to expose her biggest secret to the universe if she doesn't back off. At school, Sarah is at peak self-confidence after acing the first part of a math test. When the entire team decides to study together, she chooses to ignore the books and go to the movies to see Train on the Run 6. Priorities, after all. Her arrogance is fueled when Tynamon sends Brax to attack. The much-feared warrior acts like a panicked rookie, whimpering like a scared puppy after the first hit.
Oh, that hurt.
Seriously?
The villains retreat, and Sarah returns to the base convinced they are invincible. She even scoffs at a project to upgrade the team's weapons, preferring to stick with her popcorn and bad movies. But reality is unforgiving. Back on the ship, Brax reveals his cowardice was pure theater to make the team drop their guard. The next day, the consequences arrive. Sarah fails the second part of the test. Worse than that, Victor and Monty try to escape the exam by creating a natural toxic gas bomb. Yes, they resort to extreme flatulence to the point where the teacher hands out gas masks to the class and forces everyone to finish the test. When Brax returns to Earth, the games are over. The monster reveals his true power, crushing the team with absurd ease and forcing the heroes to retreat. The realization finally hits Sarah. Math and monsters don't forgive a lack of preparation. She rushes to finish the Superstar Blade upgrades and returns for the rematch. With the new weapon powered by the Lion Fire Star, the tide turns. The team lands a lethal blow and finishes off the secondary giant monsters summoned by the villains, forcing Brax to flee. Lesson learned, Sarah gets a chance to retake her math test, and Monty, well, he overdoes it on the beans again, and the classroom door pays the explosive price for his digestive system. The apparent calm at school is short-lived with the arrival of Blammo, an alien with the nasty habit of pulling explosives off his own body. However, before the team can act, the legendary Sheriff Skyfire descends from space to make the arrest. He's the classic tough, incorruptible space cop, but Madame Odious only needs 5 seconds to manipulate him, convincing the authority that the Rangers are the real thieves of the universe. Meanwhile, a paranoia for rules hits the school. Victor and Monty are given hall monitor badges, and the power immediately goes to their heads. Meanwhile, Clint, the school security guard, warns Haley for the 1000th time about bringing her dog to the yard, and even penalizes her for throwing a soda can in the regular trash instead of the recycling bin. The school bureaucracy is cut short when the team has to intercept Sheriff Skyfire downtown. The fight against the space lawman is completely lopsided. The sheriff dominates the combat with such brute force that his strikes nearly hit an elderly lady passing by. The near tragedy makes the officer stop and talk. After hearing the heroic side of the story and receiving a detailed report on all the monsters already defeated, Skyfire realizes the absurd mistake he made. The bigger complication is that during this distraction, Blammo activated a time bomb intended to wipe out the team. He chose to hide it in the exact school trash bin Haley was forced to organize as punishment. Heavy irony sets in when Clint, bitter and exhausted from being treated like trash by disrespectful students, decides to handle the recycling himself and quits, taking the explosive bin directly to the sorting center. After a heavy lecture from Skyfire about the team needing more respect for the people who keep the world spinning behind the scenes, like Clint, the heroes track down the guard and intercept the bomb. Haley acts fast, opening a fissure in the earth to muffle the explosion underground. With the disaster averted, the squad joins the sheriff to take down Blammo with a final blow of justice, incinerating the criminal after he grows giant.
Final attack!
Skyfire leaves Earth, trusting the local protectors so he can focus on bigger things. To repay the lesson, the team automates the school's bins, convincing Clint to stay on the job. On the other hand, Victor and Monty find the perfect punishment for abusing their false authority. They eat a dubious science project and end up inflating across the school like Violet Beauregard. Brody is training with Emma, the classic tech genius, when the monster Typeface appears. Brody tells her to run and takes the lead while the other Rangers fight the Basher bots. The problem is, Emma returns mid-fight, lands a lucky hit on a robot, and thinks she defeated an entire squad by herself. To make matters worse, a guy at the docks recorded the whole thing. The video goes viral, and by the next day, the entire school is treating her like she's Black Widow. Her ego hits the roof. She returns a repaired phone to Brody and tells him she doesn't need fighting lessons anymore, as she's now an expert. Brody tries to warn her that messing with monsters is a real danger, but she won't listen. When the Rangers go to face Badana and Typeface in the city, Emma decides to show up and fight. Badana fires at her, and the girl tries to block a plasma shot with a piece of wood.
Knife through butter. Ha! Lucky break. You won't be so lucky this.
Brody and Sarah save her skin by a hair, and Emma finally realizes she has no idea what she's doing. The situation gets dire when Typeface infects Preston's sword with a virus that shuts down the Rangers' entire weapons grid. With no weapons functioning, they have no choice but to call on Emma's real specialty, technology. They blindfold her and take her to the secret base. Mick, needing a last-minute disguise since everything is top secret, decides to transform into a hammer, a genius move. With Emma's help, the virus is purged, the weapons go back on online, and the Rangers dispatch Typeface using the Megazord. At the end of the day, Emma wins the school's technology award and accepts that, perhaps, it's better to focus on computers and stick to basic karate classes before trying to take on alien generals. While the city goes about its routine, the monster Voltipede is out there sucking car batteries dry to grow stronger. By chance, the perpetually unlucky Victor gets caught in one of these attacks and ends up absorbing the charge, becoming a supercharged human generator. Elsewhere, Calvin helps a driver whose car was drained and ends up impressing Joe, the owner of a towing company. The man is so impressed with Calvin's skills that he offers him a full-time job. Calvin, who was never the biggest fan of academics, decides it's the perfect excuse to drop out of school and live the dream of being a mechanic. Preston tries to talk some sense into his friend, but Calvin is set on it and rushes off to his first day of work. The joy is short-lived as the wave of stalled cars catches Mick's attention. Voltipede reappears and this time attacks the Rangers with full force, even managing to take down Brody's Lionfire Zord. The monster then bolts to find a larger power source, the city's power plant. Calvin volunteers to fix the downed ship. He thinks it'll be a breeze. After all, he nailed that sedan's engine earlier. But when he looks at the Zord's alien circuitry, panic sets in. Mick has to take over the tools and drop some truth. He only understands spaceships because he focused on his studies until he graduated. Voltipede reaches the plant and drains it, plunging the city into darkness. The Rangers move in to fight, but take such a massive shock that their ninja fusion star falls to the ground unnoticed. Calvin arrives with the repaired Lionfire Zord and finishes the monster's first life with a spinning fire attack.
Final attack!
But in the chaos, General Tynamon sneaks in and steals the dropped star. The Megazord handles Voltipede's giant form. Victor uses his body's electrical charge to jumpstart the city's power, losing his accidental powers in the process. And Calvin? The reality check worked. He thanks Joe for the job opportunity but decides that finishing high school is the smartest move he can make. Tynamon's possession of the ninja fusion star quickly spells trouble. The villain's plan is straightforward. Use the star and Madame Odious's fox hammer to fuse multiple monsters into a single entity to crush the Rangers. There's just one catch. The stars only respond to a Ranger's voice. Tynamon takes the most logical route and magically steals Levi's voice, swapping it with his own. Desperate to reverse the spell, Levi seeks help from Preston, who decides to test a spell from one of his ancient spellbooks. The result is exactly what you'd expect from a rushed job. The magic backfires, turning Levi into a 10-year-old kid. Rendered useless for combat, he heads to the park for a walk, while the rest of the team races downtown to prevent the day's apocalypse. Once there, Tynamon flaunts Levi's stolen voice and combines 6 monsters into a giant abomination called Mega Mauler. The creature is so brutal, it forces the Rangers' Megazord to fall apart almost instantly after the first strike. While the beating continues, the child version of Levi tries to play soccer in the park but is mocked by other kids because of his raspy, broken voice. He is defended by Rosie, a girl who was bullied for her red hair, but refuses to let it shake her confidence. To prove that who you are matters more than how others see you, she sings her favorite song, which, coincidentally, is one of Levi's own hits. This gives him the perspective he was missing. He's still the same person inside, with or without a pop star voice. With this newfound acceptance, Preston's new reversal spell finally works. Levi returns to his adult size and regains his voice. The Gold Ranger arrives on the battlefield in superstar mode and unleashes a massive attack that cleaves Tynamon, forcing him to drop the fusion star. Tynamon slinks away and the Rangers focus on the biggest part of the problem, Mega Mauler. Joining forces in the Ninja Steel Ultrazord, they incinerate the monster and end the threat.
This isn't good!
In the aftermath, everything aligns. Levi makes sure to return to the park to play soccer with Rosie, ensuring the bullies know exactly who her friend is now. Preston is leading the school's magic club, and if we've learned anything, it's that magic and Victor in the same room is a recipe for disaster. Monty accidentally hypnotizes his friend, convincing him he's a chicken. Add a stray bee causing chaos, and the result is Mr. Lunt's classroom being completely trashed. The teacher is furious and bans the club on the spot. Attempting to fix the situation, Preston casts a sleep spell on the bee but misses badly, knocking out Mr. Lunt instead. Principal Hastings walks in at that exact moment, sees the teacher sleeping on the job, and fires him. While the Rangers try to fight this injustice with a petition, the real trouble is brewing behind the scenes. Madame Odious opens General Tynamon's armor, revealing his true tiny form. Demanding results, Tynamon ambushes Mick in the workshop and knocks him out with a direct shot to the head. The Rangers eventually cross paths with the monster Brax at a quarry. During the battle, Brody's ninja star is damaged, forcing him to demorph and retreat. Back at school, Preston comes up with an idea that's surprisingly chaotic for a hero. He magically puts Principal Hastings to sleep, messes up her entire office, and makes sure Mr. Lunt is the one to find her. The principal wakes up surrounded by chaos, realizes she was too hard on him, and gives him his job back. A questionable tactic, but it worked. Peace is short-lived. Tynamon grows giant in the city, and Preston and Levi lead the charge with the Ultra Zord, blowing the villain up for good. Later, a video message arrives from Mick, claiming he went to visit his sick parents. Everything seems fine, but the truth is dark. Mick is under Madame Odious's mind control, helping her build a satellite that will enslave the entire planet. With only hours left before Madame Odious's plan goes live, the school is preoccupied with something else: TV show auditions. Haley tries her luck with a dramatic monologue from Romeo and Juliet. She's already on edge because Calvin was late, forgot the props, and didn't help her rehearse. Shortly after, Victor and Monty take the stage with a terrible medical skit. Surprisingly, it's exactly what the producer is looking for. He hires them on the spot and dismisses everyone else. Haley is devastated and makes a classic relationship mistake. She asks for her boyfriend's honest opinion. Calvin tells her the truth: she wasn't very good. The vibe sours instantly, and they decide to take a break. What no one realized is that the TV producer was the monster Gorox in disguise, who whisks Victor and Monty away to the villain's spaceship. The Rangers jump into action against Gorox and Brax, and using the full power of the Ultra Zord, they destroy both at once.
No thanks.
But the real threat is still in orbit. On the ship, Victor and Monty are forced into clown suits and made to hit each other with inflatable hammers in a lethal arena. It's pure slapstick, but with a macabre purpose. Mick, still brainwashed, broadcasts the scene to Earth. Anyone who watches the broadcast turns into a zombie immediately. In the park, Sarah tries to make Haley realize that while Calvin was insensitive, he was right about the audition. Haley decides to call and apologize, but Calvin ignores the call, stares at a screen broadcasting the show, and falls under Odious's mind control. As the city turns into a zombie army, Redbot tracks the transmission. However, before they can act, Mick and Odious land at the school to recruit their new soldiers and begin the second phase of the invasion. Mick and Madame Odious storm the Rangers' base. Redbot tries to protect the ninja steel, but the villainess blasts through the door, takes him down, and steals the artifact. The group is forced to split up for a high-stakes mission. Downtown, Haley and Sarah watch as hypnotized citizens are teleported up to the ship. When Haley spots Calvin among the zombie crowd, she decides to infiltrate the ship. Meanwhile, Brody, Preston, and Levi shadow Odious until they witness the plan she spent 1,000 years preparing, using the Ninja Nexus Prism to forge an evil star. Things spiral out of control when Brody's father, also hypnotized, appears with a murderous glare, ready to eliminate his own son. A brutal fight ensues. Up in orbit, Haley locates the satellite room but is confronted by a brainwashed Calvin. He attacks her relentlessly and knocks her out of the ship. Haley manages to hang onto the ledge while Calvin tries to pry her hands off. Instead of firing at her boyfriend, she draws her blaster and destroys the satellite behind him. The moment the equipment explodes, the spell breaks. Calvin returns to normal and pulls Haley back to safety. On Earth, Brody's father stops his attack inches away from harming his son, and Mick regains consciousness as well. Attempting to escape the ship, Victor and Monty hide bombs disguised as balls in their pants. The timing turns out to be perfect. They use the bombs to blast the guards, destroy the spaceship, and teleport all the humans back to Earth at the last second. Without her ship or her army, Madame Odious absorbs the power of the superstar, reaching her ultimate form. The Rangers realize they have to go beyond their limits. They unite the power of their ninja stars in an epic fusion, tapping into the pure energy of the Nexus, and unleash a lethal strike that disintegrates the villainess forever. After the dust settles, the mayor honors Victor and Monty as city heroes. The Rangers return all their power to the Prism, which takes flight into space to find new protectors. The universe is safe, and Mick, who could finally go home, decides to stay on Earth. After all, he's the shop teacher, and the team in Summer Cove is staying together. The Rangers are enjoying Halloween, trick-or-treating peacefully, until they run into Versix and his new gang of monsters, the gruesome grunts. The problem is, trusting in the holiday peace, they left their power stars with Mick for adjustments, a small detail that costs them dearly. Versix senses his advantage and wastes no time casting a bizarre spell that swaps the Rangers' bodies with the monsters. Brody and Sarah manage to escape in the chaos, but the rest of the team, now trapped in the skins of hideous creatures, are handcuffed by mummy guards and taken straight to the intergalactic Halloween court. In court, the situation turns into a circus. The Rangers try to prove their identities by telling heroic stories only they would know. However, the pumpkin judges think they are just obsessed fans, and the stories don't land. Worse yet, every time the real monsters tell absurd lies, like accusing Calvin of trying to bite people, or when the Rangers try to defend themselves against the obvious, the court issues a strike. The law there is absolute. 10 strikes, and the defendant is vaporized. As the count dangerously nears 10, Brody and Sarah, still disguised as monsters, find Mick and convince him to help. To save their friends, Mick has to be fast and pulls off a masterstroke. He enters the court disguised as Versix himself and fakes a guilty conscience, confessing to the body swap in front of everyone. The performance is so convincing that the real monsters panic and accidentally blow their own cover. With the truth out, the judges reverse the magic, return the Rangers to their bodies, and sentence the real monsters to vaporization. Instant justice.
You shall be vaporized! You have our apology.
Back to normal and fully armed, the team ties up loose ends by tracking the real Versix to the docks. The fight escalates to the Megazords, and the villain is finally destroyed. To end the night right, they go back to trick-or-treating, but not before one last jump scare from Mick, dressed as a giant pumpkin. Sometime later, on Christmas Eve, the threat returns in a different form. Deep in space, Sledge, Poisandra, and Wrench stumble upon the abandoned wreckage of the old Warrior Dome. Like any villain who doesn't know when to quit, Sledge hatches an ambitious plan. Fix the arena to give Poisandra her dream TV show, while behind her back, using it as a distraction to steal the power stars from the Earth team. Back on our planet, the holiday spirit is in full swing. The Rangers are helping with toy donations and have just received an important package from Wes Collins, an interdimensional transport device. But the celebration ends in a flash when Sledge and Snowfright crash the party, using ice blasts to freeze almost all the heroes. Preston is the only one who escapes unscathed and immediately engages Sledge. During the scuffle, the device accidentally activates, sucking both into a portal to another dimension and leaving the rest of the team at the monster's mercy. The captured group wakes up tied to the set of The Poisey Show. With no way out and forced to be guests on the villainess's talk show, the Rangers resort to the ultimate weapon, poking at the toxic traits of her relationship. Calvin and Sarah start sharing stories of loyalty and mutual trust, making it painfully obvious how manipulative Sledge is as a partner. The ironic couple's therapy works, and Poisandra begins to spiral on air. Meanwhile, in the prehistoric dimension of Dino Charge, Preston not only escapes the worst, but bumps into Coda, the local Blue Ranger. The two corner Sledge, and, with the unexpected help of a real T-Rex that sends the villains screaming in terror, they ditch prehistory and race back through the portal to save the team. Sledge, in a panic, jumps through after them at the last second. By the time he hits the studio floor, Poisandra has figured out all his past lies. Taking advantage of the couple's explosive argument, Preston and Coda burst onto the scene and free the team under a cloud of smoke. With everyone free and an epic rescue involving Santa Claus's sleigh, the fight moves to the Megazords, and Snowfright is turned into melted slush. Only the domestic dispute on the ship remains. Sledge begs for forgiveness, and Wrench brings in a mysterious box left by Coda moments earlier. Poisandra thinks it's a makeup gift from Sledge and opens it. To the trio's surprise, the box reveals a live bomb. The explosion doesn't just end their relationship drama, it completely destroys the arena and the villains. With everything settled, the team celebrates the night by exchanging gifts with Coda, who gives everyone authentic caveman clubs. Innovative, to say the least.